Bonjour à tous, je suis Guillaume Rose.
Good morning. I am Guillaume Rose. I am General Manager, CEO of the Monaco Economic Board, and I am offering you a webinar on a subject that is very important. It's ethical and sustainable economy with a focus on what we call blue finance. The idea is to talk to you about how this can become a new opportunity, especially in those difficult times. Our English-speaking friends can listen to the simultaneous interpretation.
Dedicated to ethical and sustainable economy with a focus on blue finance. To listen to the English translation, please click on the sphere icon and choose English. Thank you very much. I switch now back to French. Durant des années, on a eu tendance.
Yes, we had a tendency to oppose finance to sustainable development or profitability to safeguarding our planet. But in fact, the climate change has become real. There are many risks. And little by little, an awareness took place among the decision makers in the world of finance and in corporations in general. The recent events that really were a crisis in Europe showed that this environment is very difficult. So we know that the ethical and sustainable economy does exist, and it's a real opportunity. And Olivier Wenden will talk about it a bit more in details. This subject was mentioned during the Monaco Ocean Week last week, during the day dedicated to the Ocean Innovative Platform organized by the Albert II Foundation. This is a sector that is rapidly developing, and Olivier Wenden, the Vice President and CEO of the Prince Albert II Foundation, will answer my questions with my assistant, Justin Higman, and also to your questions if you want to ask them online. Thank you, Olivier, for being with us. Hello, Guillaume. Thank you for inviting me. So before we listen to Olivier, as an introduction to this webinar, I will give the floor to Hervé Ordioni, the president of the Commission for the Marketplace Promotion within the Monaco Association for Financial Activities. He will talk about the point of view of finance specialists, especially in Monaco. Good morning, Hervé. It's up to you now. Thank you, Guillaume. Thanks to all of you. And thank you for allowing my association to express itself here. I'm going to talk in general terms. And in a few minutes, in a few words, I will try to explain what is the position of the Monaco marketplace without talking about specific actions that have already started by our members. So AMAF, the members are banks, management companies, investment fund companies, and we have about 30 banking establishments, and there's a high proportion of management companies, and they are very important players. And during the past month, they showed a great involvement in sustainable finance. So what is sustainable finance? It's a vision finance in order to give priority to financial operations or transactions that are oriented towards sustainable development. So the companies are at the heart of this system. So there are long-term projects under what we call the ESG criteria: environment, social, and governance. These are extra financial criteria. So we need to have common standards. And this is the reason why Europe has been very active as far as regulations are concerned. In Europe, there are a lot of things to be put into place so that the regulation can also be sustainable. So it's a large project. We can see some subsectors like responsible investing. This is an incentive to define and publish extra financial criteria and having an interest for the investors for each corporation. You have the green investment, which is dedicated to energy transition. And then we can talk about blue finance, blue investments. We'll talk about it with Olivier Wenden. And you have a solidarity investment, which has been created based on social criteria. To help people who have a different culture, who so that they can finance can have a sort of social approach. So all these players are not very polluting because our activity is a tertiary economy activity. But we are at the crossroads of communications between investors who have projects they want to finance and the savers or the institutional bodies that want to invest. So our role is to bring together people who have common interests, and then we can direct those funds towards sustainable development. And this is our role. So now I'll give you an example of what we can find in this marketplace. There's an investment fund called Ginkgo. Ginkgo is the name of a tree that is very well known, and there's a beautiful one in the Principality of Monaco. So what was the goal of this fund? It was created 15 years ago. And there were 3 phases, and it's working very well. From the 90s, a certain number of corporations were outside the cities, and they placed their production areas elsewhere. And therefore, the industrial sites remained empty, and they needed to be cleaned up before they could be built on again. So these territories were equipped with collective equipment, gardens, stadium, or housing. So this Ginkgo fund is working with public authorities to clean up the land and then invest in building things on the land. So you can see here the impact of sustainable finance. Monaco Marketplace mobilized itself last year thanks to the initiative of our Minister of Finance and Economy, Mr. Jean Castellini, because Monaco Sustainable Finance was created. It's a group, and we met several times, and we tried to see what it was possible to do in the Principality in order to promote our know-how. So there were 4 initiatives. The first one is to appoint in each establishment a person who is an ESG contact person. So our goal is to create an association of the ESG contact points. We have operations persons. Well, we need an ESG person also. And that person should be able to talk to the other ones and have initiatives on this marketplace. This is important. The second thing, and it's very important, is that all the bankers and the client managers be able at the same time to talk about the products and services of their establishment, but also about the actions that are put into place on the Monaco marketplace. The project is complicated, it's very ambitious, and I believe we should be able to have a reporting that is common to all the players on the marketplace, so that we can discuss and share simple criteria like the impact on gas emissions, renewable energies that are generated within the investments sometimes. And we need to deal with all these issues. So we could bring all this together and share it with all the clients of the banking marketplace. There's a fourth ambition we have. It's going to take a bit more time. It's to make sure that Monaco become recognized for international conferences on this particular topic of sustainable finance. So we are working on all these projects and we are trying to share them among all our members. I'm afraid I was a bit long, but I wanted to tell you what the situation was on our side. No, I believe you were very exhaustive. It was very good. And I take note of the final proposal of making Monaco become a place for exchanging about sustainable finance. I think Monaco would benefit from becoming a world-recognized place where these problems can be discussed. It's one of the pillars of the Monaco economy. We need to use our image that is reinforced by the actions of our prince, also through his Monaco Foundation. And I will now turn to Olivier Wenden to ask the first question. The Albert II Monaco Foundation has been created a bit more than 15 years ago now. Can you remind us the goals of the foundation, the main actions and projects? With pleasure. Thank you, Guillaume. You said the foundation was more than 15 years old. It was a very strong decision from the prince. Less than 1 year after he became prince, he created the foundation. It's the only non-governmental organization that is chaired by a head of state. So, of course, that helps carrying out projects. We have many partners, of course, research centers, universities in the world. We are very active in the Mediterranean, in polar regions, and in the sea. We know oceans are most affected by the climate change, and there are countries who really don't have resources, so they need financial help to face the challenge. There's a letter of mission drafted by the prince that talks about the climate change with the promotion of renewable energy. A second line of action is the preservation of biodiversity on Earth and in the ocean. And the next year are going to be very difficult. There is to protect access to drinkable water. So this is the identity of our foundation. In 15 years, we carried out about 100 projects each year. We are a modest foundation with 80 million euros, but our great asset is to have a head of state chairing our association. And we can have bilateral discussions, and we can try to have an influence to protect our planet. And I really have to congratulate our prince for his actions, especially for protecting the ocean. There are, of course, other challenges. Hervé Ordioni was brilliantly saying it. the asset of the Principality is to be able to create platforms to facilitate exchanges of views. And we, as a foundation, worked towards this goal. Last week, we had the Monaco Ocean Week with all the local partners that are committed, the Yacht Club, the Monaco Scientific Center, many other players, and our international partners were there too, like UNESCO and other private organizations. So this was a very interesting event with 1,000 people all brought together in Monaco to talk about this problem of oceans, seas and oceans. The Prince and the Foundation contributed to this, trying to bring the ocean as a subject of discussion. And of course, they are decision makers from the economy, but the climate change will never be solved if you don't include the oceans among the problems to be dealt with. This was something that was totally unknown 10 years ago. And fortunately, for the past 5 years, things have been changing. And I think it's a real success for the Principality and the Prince. First, we do have a sustainable development goal that talks about it officially. And there's the notion of the relationship between the ocean and the climate that has been put forward. So to answer more precisely to our theme this morning on the economic sector, I think we are trying to bring together all those players. We, of course, need the scientific players, but also entrepreneurs and investors. They need to be brought together. I think this is the best thing we can do now, is to show them the opportunities that are opening up in the economy in this field. Yes, this brings me to the next question. What is your vision on the role of corporations in a world that should be more respectful of the environment? I'm just giving you some figures. Hervé didn't give us figures. He spared us that this morning, but I will start by the European Union. 4 million employment jobs directly connected with the oceans. It's all 3% of the GNP. So you have fisheries, aquaculture, tourism, maritime transportation, ports, ship construction, shipyards. I mean, it's a very broad sector. Worldwide, I have two figures. According to the FAO, 60 million people work directly in the sector of fisheries and aquaculture, which is a lot. And in the worldwide economy, 1,000 billion per year are traded in this sector. So again, 5 years ago, we were not talking about all this. And now we are opening our eyes and seeing all the potential that can be found in the world oceans. We talked about blue finance, blue economy. We can also talk about green economy, but it's all the same in the end. But something has been even more recent for Monaco and investors, because Monaco is legitimate to talk about oceans. So the Ocean Week spoke about all those very important topics, the blue carbon, for example. We talked about the whales, the krill, all these important topics. Whales have a potential of absorbing carbon that is proven. It's an incredible potential. So this gives an economic value to an animal that was hunted so much before. We can also change the perception we might have of some species. And this is interesting for blue carbon. There's an economic potential that is enormous in blue food. This is the food for the future. And also sea products and coming from the ocean can represent a very interesting development for human food and animals too. And also we need coastal resilience because many areas are affected by the rise of the sea level. You heard about the small states, the islands in the Pacific, Maldives, for example, that are going to be underwater before the end of the century. And we need adaptation measures. In the land in France, also part of the coast will disappear. There are investments towards building a wall that are made by the authorities to protect the coast. And there's also insurance and reinsurance that will take place for those coastal areas. And we know that a great part of world population lives at about 50 kilometers from a coast. So the GIEC showed that the IPCC showed that if we are continuing this present trend, we will have an increase of 3 degrees in temperatures, and the Mediterranean would go right down to Cairo. There will no longer be Alexandria. There are things to do in agriculture around the Mediterranean. It'll happen at the middle of the century or at the end of the century. We have aquaculture also. The goal is to capture CO2 in the air. There is also plastic pollution that represents many job opportunities to solve. So we could industrialize all those solutions that exist already today in this context. And to answer to Hervé, I think Monaco and the Foundation created the Ocean Innovators platform because we need to reinforce interactions between the corporations, and there are thousands of solutions in the world to meet the solutions for these different challenges. We have 1,400 solutions that have been labeled to try to protect the planet. So some of them are really valuable solutions for the oceans, and we were not, in fact, approaching an investor. No, it was a day that was dedicated to up and running companies. They have a capital, they are developing, and they can immediately take this opportunity as an investor. So yes, with the success of the last week, we are going to create even more multilateral meetings. We have the conference at the end of June on oceans in Lisboa. So we have to bring together the investors to help putting into place all those solutions. Thank you, Olivier. Yeah, that was an excellent presentation. So Hervé, at the start of this webinar, talked about blue finance and ethical finance. But for you, what is the role of blue finance to support the companies in their development? Is it the question to me? It's going to be for Olivier. Well, this is a matter of concept. 5 years ago, we were opposing the environment to real economy. I don't know why. They considered the environment as a negative external factor. For example, our mobile phone has a purchase price that doesn't take into account the life shelf span of the phone. I think it's easy to understand that we have to be logic as much as we have to be ecologic. So the environment and real economy can be brought together thanks to science. Maybe you heard about it. There's a danger today. There are technologies who are supposed to serve the environment, like try to avoid the temperature, but sometimes it can go wrong. So I think there should really be a connection between the corporations and the finances, the investors. There's a lot of money at stake. There's a lot of money available today among the banks, or even there's the Green Deal in Europe. They count a lot on the job opportunities and trying to open blue finance. There's a problem of credibility and access to knowledge. Before you invest, of course, you want to know that scientifically it's viable, that the business plan is all right, and there's a market. So there's a problem of credibility. And for corporations, they say, yes, my company is going well, but sometimes they don't have the funds or they don't know the market. And last week, we also talked about the reassuring part, because investors often prefer to invest in something they know well. They feel reassured. So there's an education effort to be made there to give them that knowledge. So this marketplace should improve the knowledge of this sector. So you're talking about a dialogue between the Albert II Foundation and AMAF and the financial institutions. So then I want to ask the same question to Hervé Ordioni. What is the role of blue finance to support the corporations in their development? It is an essential role. Olivier said that with a lot of talent, there's an awareness that took place, not only among those who can see the deterioration due to the climate change, but also among investors. Very recently, 2 years ago maybe, some savers were telling us, but if I want to do something good, I go to church or I give money to the Red Cross. Well, they can do that, of course, no problem. I encourage them to do that, especially for the Red Cross in those difficult times. But there's also a way of orienting these funds or personal funds and bring them to projects that can at the same time be financially profitable and protecting the environment. So blue finance is one sector of green finance. in Monaco, we are maybe more sensitive to blue finance. So how can we share a bit more this with all the players? Well, international conferences in Monaco are particularly welcomed thanks to our prince. And just now I have an idea talking with you. I could, and I will do it, I could encourage some members of AMAF to make communications on our website on all the investment projects, cash or non-cash, that have to do with blue finance. So through this, we can highlight that type of investments. And all the members in AMAF will be able to communicate to a broad public. The site is accessible to all, and they can show what they do in terms of products and services in blue finance. Thank you, Hervé. Excellent answer. It's a very practical proposal. We'd like here in MEP to give something really practical and concrete to the companies. So I would like to finish this mini interview of Olivier asking, how can the Monaco Albert II Foundation help the investors and companies? Well, I'll answer to Hervé saying that maybe on the AMAF site, we could post the 1,400 solutions I mentioned earlier. We are totally in agreement with those solutions, and that could also be opportunities for local companies. So it's pure information. It might be nice. Yes, dear Olivier, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I'm very happy of what you said. I regret I didn't have it myself, but the AMAF's website is created exactly for this type of thing. So yes, of course, we will do that. On Monday, we are going to start acting. So let's remain practical. I see one danger for the investors, it's time. Of course, in that type of investments, the return on investments takes more time. So there are algae farms. We are not talking about sushis, of course, but there is a great potential with the algae. And I insist, animal food is under pressure because of deforestation, because of gas emissions. So last week, someone talked about floating farms in the sea with a regeneration within 3 or 6 months. So here you have a direct return on investment in less than 6 months. So that might be interesting, of course, for the investors. So Guillaume, to answer your question directly, I believe the fundamental role is being a hub. Monaco is a hub that investors like very much. They are interested. The decision makers, the scientists are all interested. We talked a lot last week, as I mentioned, with all those people, and we have no competition. Even if you go in meetings in the major capitals of this world, it is not as easy to meet with people in a pleasant place. In Monaco, you can go everywhere walking. Everything is walking distance. So people are open to discussion. And most of them tell us that there's a financial economy in Monaco, because in 4 or 5 days, we offer them to meet with the experts in their fields. So everybody was present at the same time in the principality. So we really need to build on our strength. And Monaco has a role of hub, scientific hub for companies. We have a remarkable and remarked credibility worldwide. And finally, I will say that resilience and adaptation cannot be opposed. We have many economically viable projects that help regenerate our ecosystems while generating a lot of profit. There's a Japanese company who has a commercial goal exclusively, and thanks to artificial intelligence, they can identify species that are endangered, dying. They can. There's a great market for that. And when they are revitalized, then it has a consequence. So you have a triple win. You have direct profit, rapid profit. You have a good action on biodiversity. These are the solutions that exist today and that need to be explained to the investors. Thank you, Olivier. It's very concrete. We like that. You had a beautiful dialogue, and now I'm going to give the floor to my assistant, who has received questions from our listeners. Yes, thank you, Hervé and Olivier. We received several questions, some before and some during the webinar. How can Monaco position itself on bioeconomy? It's a good question. We have different ways of making our involvement known. First, we can make a list of all the products and services our members are offering to investors. That's the first thing. The second one, because we are talking about international conferences, is to have a closer partnership with Olivier Wenden and the Princess Foundation to see how we can communicate together. I see those two lines. Communications, of course, is something we are working a lot on, and we do that through our website and through the social networks. So there's a knowledge here and a know-how that we have to show to all these people, and we have to share with all the players in Monaco and of the foundation, with the foundation, because clearly many of them have been involved for a very long time. And if we bring our efforts together and our strength together, we can be much more efficient. Thank you, Hervé. Question to Olivier for the Ocean Innovators Platform. What are the next developments? We just closed 1 week ago the Ocean Events Platform. It was an immediate success and simple. Monaco platform is ideal. There are many platforms or shows that exist on green techs. I respect what has been done by Nico Rosberg. He created the Green Tech Festival in Berlin and now in London. So, but before there was never a focus on oceans. We did this with the Solar Impulse Foundation, with Climate Tech, and several other partners, and the Sustainable Ocean Alive. So these are very good partners that were identified and selected very seriously, and they propose solutions that work. So we had a high quality of participants, a high quality of speakers. So next developments, first, the need to create an international community with all these experts need to continue their exchanges and their the business relationship. We want really to be oriented towards economy and finance, signing contracts. So to do that, we will invite most of those participants to meetings in international organizations. The United Nations Conference on Oceans in Lisboa will be a first opportunity for us to meet again and talk about blue economy. There's another one in September. There's the Egypt COP that we are looking forward to. It's a common commitment. And there was the issue of financial and economy international meetings. We didn't do that too much before, but we should integrate the knowledge of scientists, of investors, and we should change our working cycle that we had before, because sometimes if you talk to investors or businessmen, you don't speak the same language. You don't have the same timeline, the same expectations, and the same perception of reality. So we can tell them, for example, you can't produce plastic anymore, but there's no immediate solution. So we should facilitate a realistic dialogue among all the players. Of course, there will be a new edition of the Monaco event. We are thinking about the possibility of adding demonstrations in order to show practical solutions. As you know, France was a precursor. Soon there will be filters on all washing machines, for example, which will prevent nanoparticles to be rejected in the sea. Because all our clothes we are wearing, in fact, are rejecting nanoparticles, plastic. 30 grams of plastic a week is created. So this is part of the dialogue on the platform, and we need to find solutions that can work so that we can promote them to our investors. And sorry, I forgot to mention it, but we have a good example in Monaco, thanks to the Princess government. It's a sovereign fund that will be invested in startups in marine environment. Future Planet Capital did that under the finance ministry, and the foundation brought its technical and scientific contribution. Thank you for this very clear answer. I will remember about the plastic emission in a week. So Monaco Finance launched responsible investing group to update all the ESG persons. Do we have a coordination in this field? Well, yes, we need to create an association to guarantee this coordination. During the past 10 years, a certain number of associations were created, or economic bodies. I'm talking about a hub again. AMAF is a founding member of the Monaco Economic Board. And in the same way, we are a founding member of the Monaco Association of Officers, Finance Officers, and clearly we have to work with our regulators. Of course, they are essential for this discussion. So we will need to launch this process. And then we will be able to be officially heard and recognized. And then we can start partnerships and cooperations between all the players in the Monaco finance marketplace. There's an association that has an official seal and is recognized by AMAF. So it's important to be able to speak with a common voice. It's important. Yes, and there are many opportunities. It's important that all the members of AMAF be able to bring together their ideas and their products. Then we will be able to do things even better, and it's going to be totally profitable for the Principality of Monaco. Thank you for this very clear answer. A last question, because we don't have much time left, for Olivier. You talked about Mr. Picard several times. There are logical solutions and opportunities, and they are profitable. So it's more than simple awareness now. Do you believe that things are going in the right direction? Are you optimistic for the future? And do you think Monaco can have a role of being a hub? Yes, clearly we are optimistic. Otherwise, we would have closed down our offices already. We have to remain optimistic. Things are moving, but it has happened very lately. But year after year, month after month, we have less and less time. We are in 2022 already, so we really need to put into place the first solutions and analyze the results. I'm optimistic because within 2 years, 5 years, the business world has no other choice than to make these investments. I'm talking about major multinational groups, the youth that was born in the year 2000s. The young people are very aware of the environmental problems, and they are ready to give money for that. So there are changes in packaging, in cosmetics. This is our daily life. And we have to fight those nanoparticles I was talking about. And this pressure from the regulator. And there we are lagging back. So I was mentioning France earlier. France is fighting against plastics, Monaco also. France is trying to do that. There's a discussion in the United Nations about it. It's recent. 6 months ago, there was an international treaty to try to stop plastic pollutants into the sea. It's an international treaty, and there might be sanctions against the states or corporations that violate that treaty, because there are tons of plastic in the Mediterranean. We are not neutral yet in this, so there are a lot of things we can do. Bottom up and bottom down, we can do many things. Monaco has a role to play in networking, but if solutions exist that they are profitable, why aren't they more widely implemented? This psychological aspect. It is that you need to have a knowledge about this. It's still new and investors are not used to it yet. So we have to encourage them. And I believe Monaco has a role to play. We just received a question concerning Mr. Picard. What project with Mr. Picard did the foundation carry out in solar energy? Are there other projects coming? Coming, certainly. But Solar Impulse, you have to realize that Mr. Picard never said there would be a commercial solar plane in the future. No, we used the technology existing in 2015 to demonstrate that right now we were able to make a perpetual flight without using petrol or gas. That is what we wanted to demonstrate. But it took him 4 years to labelize 1,400 solutions. It's a good thing it took 4 years because it meant a real process of checking and scientific expertise was put into place. And it was a positive impact on the environment. Sometimes there are solutions that are not that good. So we worked a lot with the Solar Impulse Foundation, and we want to work together to have a leverage with decision makers and companies. And we are very proud in Monaco because there's one Monaco startup, Flexi. It's a young Monégasque who launched this startup. It is in Imperial College right now, and it's a total substitute to plastic packaging. So in Monaco, we have a very successful startup commercialized by Solar Impulse, and the foundation is watching this very closely. Thank you. A very last question. One participant wanted to know what was the most efficient way to present projects with an environment impact, solving some issues mentioned in the webinar and guaranteeing access to water, for example. Less than 1 minute. Thank you for the question. It's very simple. And for being efficient, the foundation every year from the 1st of June to the 30th of June on the beach, on the welcome page of the website, presents a way of posting a project. And there will be priority themes that will be defined. It's very easy on the welcome page of our website. Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Hervé, for very precise answers. Guillaume. Thank you, Justin. I would like to thank our participants for this very high-level discussion. You can go to meb.mc on the web, and I invite you to share that link. There are terrifying things like we are eating plastic every week, but there are many things, many solutions that are bringing a lot of hope to protect the environment. So there many things were mentioned here, and things are interesting, of course, for financially and also for the environment and our daily lives. Thanks to Olivier Wenden, Hervé Ordioni, and we'll have a new webinar very soon. Thank you.